Hi everyone, Jeremy Reynolds here, Alpha Money Coach. I've been leading a series on property investment groups and property spruikers in recent times, and I want to make sure I touch in another point here. Now, I'm talking about these things from the perspective of meeting a mortgage broker and the mortgage broker's relationship with a property investment group or property spruikers. Now, first and foremost, it is my ethical approach that there should never be funds that change hands between a mortgage broker and a property spruiker, because it proves to be a conflict of interest and a conflict of interest in the advice that the mortgage broker is giving. I want to touch on a topic called transparency, but I want to talk about this from a legal framework, a licensing framework, which you might go, yawn, how is that applicable to me as a client? But it will be, because under NCCP, so this is the National Consumer Credit Protection Act, which every licensed mortgage broker, whether they have their own credit license or a authorised credit representative under another license, there's criteria. They have to be qualified and they need to have certain actions, certain documents that do different things. So we have some of the things we need to do are we need to make reasonable inquiries, we need to ask about your financial situation, we also need to verify that with documents. One of the key aspects also is transparency. There's inputs, there's things that we get from you, but there's things that we need to give to you, provide to you to help you. One of the things that we provide, or brokers, when I say we, I'm saying brokers in general, not necessarily my brokers need to provide with you a proposal. We call ours a credit proposal disclosure document, but let's just call it a proposal. This proposal needs to be presented to a client after they've met with you and complete a needs analysis or fact find, ask you lots of questions about what you'd like to achieve, your goals, your financial situation, and we verified it. We've looked at what your needs are. We've actually confirmed that what you said is accurate and in line with the documentation. We've done research, we've called up the banks and worked out, okay, what bank will take your deal based on their rules, but then second of all, which is the most competitive rate for your individual situation and how we can save you the most money. Then we actually provide a document which summarises all of this. This is what we found, and this is where we're directing you. If we ever did maths in school, whether you loved it or loathed it, you probably remember your maths teacher looking at your work and seeing the answer, and then saying, well, you haven't shown your working out. We're actually required to show you our working out. That's what this proposal document is. It needs to be presented to a client either at the time of application, but what this means is before the application is taking place. So usually the same meeting. There's a couple of sections in here which may make brokers who are connected with property spruikers cringe because they're not filling these out correctly and they're having a lack of transparency with the client. Now, first and foremost, these property investment groups aren't under the same set of laws. It's a different set of advice. They do different things. So if you asked a property investor, and it would probably be a very crass question to ask, and not so as a consumer, if you're looking at property, feel free to ask. It's on your up to your discretion. But well, how much are you making from this? Probably won't tell you. Do they need to? Well, there isn't a code that says that they need to tell you an itemised list of how much they're earning from this. And nor is there anything that actually stipulates if that is a reasonable amount for that transaction. It's discretionary. So is it reasonable? So they don't provide it. Why? Because it's usually a very big number. Someone's paying that. Typically, it can demonstrate an inflated price of the property, and therefore who's paying it? And realistically, the client's paying for it out of their loan or their savings, the funds that are provided at settlement for that property. So, next thing, we've got this document called a proposal. It says how much we earn as a mortgage broker, so now I'm talking about the mortgage brokers again, and this is typical. How much do you earn? This is around about how much commission I'm going to be earning from your loan. Fantastic. Okay, no worries. It's not coming out of my pocket, not a problem. We also explain if there's any fees or additional fees, so it might be extra work that's needed, and we need to provide a maximum amount of fees. But here's the other interesting thing. We need to actually communicate if the broker is paying a referrer for this, so they can make sure, well, okay, did we pay someone else any money? But we also have to document any conflicts of interest. So though the particular property group may not have to disclose anything, we need to disclose everything as a broker. So in this proposal, it should have, first of all, how much we're earning, but what it should also have if we're actually receiving any money from a property group. So the broker should have it written there. If they don't document that and it's later found they did, it's actually in breach of the National Consumer Credit Protection Act, which is governed by ASIC as our regulator, who would view these things in a very negative sense. So, in other words, though that property investor does not need to communicate that dollar amount, the broker does because it's a conflict. Now, what sort of conflicts may arise? There's the one I mentioned directly there. The broker's getting paid money here. A broker should make sure that they're representing you, the client, or clients, the borrowers, and your needs, not their own needs, and not the needs of a property investment group or property spruiker, which always means that the broker's mentality, and you go, well, conflicts of interest, people think they understand the concept, but I want to break it down a little bit more simple for you. Is the mortgage broker's advice going to be influenced by anyone else or anything else that creates another interest? In this case, there's a conflict of interest because there's money involved, for additional money for that property in the broker. So in other words, let's look at this in an example. The mortgage broker there should always be an option for the client and presented to the client. Let's say the client has limited savings, limited funds, and the broker doesn't have any conflicts of interest, but the client is looking at buying an investment property for a group. Looking at this now, it'd be very difficult for you to service that loan. An option should always be, first of all, to wait. I think you should save a bit longer. Option 2 should be, well, I don't think this is suitable that you get a finance, that we should just refinance your home loan and not draw out equity at this stage for the investment. However, if that broker was unduly or had a vested interest and was receiving some funds, some commission for that loan, now there's a much higher level of partiality involved. This partiality was to say, I'm going to do whatever it takes to get that loan across the table. Why? Because it is in my best interest, and I'm not saying me, Jeremy, I'm saying this example person, it's in their best interest to get the loan, even if it might not be beneficial to them, or it might not be suited to their individual needs. Okay, what other conflicts can arise? What if if there's money transferring hands to a mortgage broker, they have to disclose it. They disclose a fee if the client has paid them directly, but if anyone else is paying them, if there's something that's conflicting, like a property group, they need to disclose that. Now, a question, and let's call it rhetorical at this stage, do you think the people that are getting paid a commission from the sale of properties are disclosing that? Do you think they will be? It's in your interest to ask them, are you receiving any money from anyone else because of this? What's your relationship with that group? Would you have any problem if I bought my property from another group and not them? Would it make any difference to you? The opinion should be of the broker, but it's ultimately your decision. If you'd like to look at other options, you should be able to. No, you need to go with those people. That's bias, it's a conflict, and that's actually stepping outside the advice set and the parameters of that mortgage broker. So let's say there's no money changing hands. They can still have that conflict of interest in the advice that they're providing. Yes, you should get this property. Bang. Why? That's wrong. First of all, The conflict of interest in that case has influenced the person to step outside their advice set. They can't comment on investments. They can't comment on the client's investment strategy, where they should get an investment property, where they shouldn't. They can comment on the provision of credit, in this case a home loan, an investment property loan, for that client, with the client's needs in place. Now, talking about going back to that proposal, you'd have to demonstrate that if there was a conflict of interest and be able to explain it. Now, sometimes there might be a conflict, but can it be explained? If it can't be, there needs to be a step back, and there needs to be a reasonable way for the client to get out or ask for more information. This is why this document, it's imperative that this is provided, usually in that meeting of the application, but before the application takes place. And again, the option should always arise that, is the broker comfortable with you getting an investment property from somewhere else or not getting the investment property? These things are key and more than important to ensure that they are having that level of professionalism and being ethical in what they're presenting to you. So it's not, we really need to get this across the line because I'm working in cahoots with XYZ property investment group, and therefore I'm going to do whatever it takes. Whose interest is that? It's the broker's interest now. It's the broker's needs, and it is the property investment group's needs as well. So transparency is key. Though the property investment group may not have to disclose the commissions, the broker does. Also, we need to show our working out. So if these things are involved, can it be adequately explained, these particular options to a client and the selected choice of product, why that works out as a viable option for them? Brokers, great brokers, and what an alpha finance solutions broker will often do, we can actually provide you a proposal, in other words, a peace of mind documentation, a proposal explaining why we think you should wait, that you shouldn't get finance, or it's not a good time as well. We're prepared to do that for you, provide that for you, so then you've got a bit of methodology. So in other words, why 1 + 1 = 2, to explain that to you. It is a contentious topic. Again, I think people building property portfolios and can be a good strategy for the right person. But I always recommend as well that if you're wanting to make sure that there is a level of impartiality. Now, on another note, as a mortgage broker, no one's completely impartial. We all have biases. Levels of biases, but they need to be controlled within a very safe environment there. Not of a level where it's going to unduly influence a client. But how we can actually mitigate these things and make sure opinions or contradictory needs come into it. Number one, in this case, it would always be my recommendation that you have independent advice from a tax agent, if not a property investment group, if not accountant, tax agent. The reason being, if you're using a accountant, they should be your accountant. They should be able to tell you no, don't do it. Don't have anything to do with them. Make sure that you're using this, that you're getting the right advice that you need. Second of all, if you could make sure that you're getting an impartial legal advice as well, who represents you and your needs. Thank you for your time. Have an awesome day.